Alright, so today we have the mini mental.
So what is the mini mental? It was authored by Marshall F. Folstein and Susan E. Folstein, and the year published was 2010. The type of the assessment is standardized criterion referenced. The purpose is screening for cognitive impairments impacting safety and performance with ADLs. It identifies demarcation of abnormality, not a score that states severity. So it only says if a client should further assessment. It doesn't say how severe their cognitive impairment is. Population is adults with psychiatric, neurological, and general medical conditions. The time is 5 to 20 minutes, and there's 3 tests to choose from: the brief, standard, and expanded. And the brief takes 5, standard takes 10, and expanded takes 20. And their user qualifications are a review of assessment protocol.
So for this assessment, we believed that the cognitive model fit best. So the cognitive model defines cognition as a process of identifying, selecting, interpreting, storing, and using information to make sense of and interact with physical and social world, to conduct one's everyday activities, and to plan and enact in occupational life. And some aspects of cognition include memory, attention, executive functions, and you can see bits and pieces of this in the mini mental status exam. And therefore, because each model has its own assessment protocols, the cognitive model has its own assessment protocols. So assessment strategies and methods for the cognitive model include assessing occupational and functional consequences of the impaired cognition, determining the level of cognitive impairment, and assessing the cognitive components to identify what's breaking down and the extent and the underlying nature of the deficit. And some assessment types include standardized tests that screen for cognitive problems, determine cognitive level, assess cognitive abilities, and examine cognitive factors. Then you can also use interview and observation in there as well. So the conclusion, the mini mental best fits this model because it addresses the issues that the cognitive model defines as cognition, and it provides the cognitive model, it uses the cognitive model's assessment strategies and methods, as we told you earlier.
So then there's always some potential biases that could impact an assessment. So we looked at the cultural biases, but Kayla and I intensely looked over the assessment and we couldn't find any potential cultural biases. The assessment actually had a panel that included 6 people, and they did tasks and items for potential biases and offensiveness, and the panel rated the final version as there was no biases regarding culture at all. So they actually took care of all those potential biases that we could have picked out. Then there was a disability status bias, and if a client has a motor disability, they may be concluded that they have a greater cognitive disability than they actually do. So if they have a motor disability and they're doing the drawing aspect of the mini mental, it might look like they have a higher cognitive disability, but when really they just have a problem in the motor component of it. And then there's contextual variables regarding bias, and we said that the testing environment can be done in any environment according to the person's optimal environment, but a bias that could be seen is if a person with ADHD was put in a room with a window and they were facing the window and a bunch of people were walking by. This could definitely affect their performance. So we want to put them in the most natural environment to promote the best performance, but so they could do as good as possible.
And here's who excited.